Hey everybody, welcome to HBCU Game Day. We're talking hoops once again. I am Tolly Carr in Atlanta, Georgia, joined by Liv for Hoops, Liv and Dilla. She's in Minnesota, and Wilton Jackson, who's just looking peachy keen there in Jackson, Mississippi. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
Doing well,
Doing
Tolly.
great.
How are you?
Hey, great, Liv. You know us boys in the South. We're struggling with this cold. It's just another spring day for you, right?
Right? I'm like 40 degrees sounds nice. This morning we were like -6, so
Oh,
I
God.
would love 40-degree weather right now.
Me and Wilton sitting at 41, about to die. All right, let's talk about somebody who is hot. That is Tennessee State, the Tennessee State men's program, arguably the #1 HBCU men's program in the country. Some might argue that. Look, Cleo Hill, the head coach of UMES, he was on our Facebook page with a couple of those eye emojis when I said they were arguably the #1 team. So even fellow coaches want to let us know, don't forget about us. But right now we're talking about Tennessee State. Liv, they have two dynamic scorers, guys who can put the ball in the hoop. They have two of the top 4 scorers in the OVC. What makes Tennessee State's men so dangerous this year?
I think Nolan Smith bringing in his new type of offense is where the guards are really excelling. Travis Harper II, Aaron Nkrumah, and the player who's not in the top 4 but is equally important is Dante Harris. Those 3 were given the reins and basically were like, run with it. And they trust those 2 specifically and Dante to get it done night in and night out. And when you have that type of confidence from your coaches instilled in you, and then you have wins coming behind it, you'll see players start to really excel. So when you have those guard players who are putting up these big numbers every night, like both of those 2 are for sure in double digits, pretty much 20 almost every single night. That's why we're seeing Tennessee State have such great success in the OVC.
All right, Wilton, they're just a half game out of the top spot in the OVC, but they have UT Martin is leading the way, but Tennessee State has already beat them once this year. They'll play again. Wilton, do you feel like this is the year that Tennessee State takes the regular season and you got to get a little lucky on top of being good when it comes to the conference tournament to make it to the NCAA? But is this Tennessee State's year, in your opinion, Wilton?
Tyler, as far as regular season, I have to give it to Tennessee State. Again, I mean, still games left to be played, but I think that, the way that they're playing with the play of Travis Harper and Aaron Nkrumah, I really don't see this team faltering. If anything, I really see them finding a way to get to the top and get that top spot in the OVC. I mean, but they do have some upcoming games and matchups to watch out for. On January 29th, which is today, they have Little Rock, and then on February 2nd, they have Tennessee Tech. So these are some games to keep an eye on. And then also a key Valentine's Day game against Morehead State. And then they have another game against Southern Illinois' Edwardsville, who beat TSU once already. So this could be somewhat of a revenge tiebreaker game. So those are a couple of games to keep an eye on for Tennessee State. But I definitely think that they could potentially win this conference race, the regular season race for the OVC.
All right, so old Unc has a question for his niece and nephew right here. What were you guys doing in 1994? On Earth?
Oh, wow.
Were you on Earth? Were you here?
Depending on the month, no.
Wilton, what were you doing back in 94?
Well, so I was, what is this, Jay? Well, yes, I was here. I was like just over a year old, almost a year old, actually.
Okay, I was like a sophomore in college. The
wow.
reason we bring up 1994, you didn't have to give the sound effect, Wilton. The reason we bring up 1994, that is the last time Tennessee State went to the NCAA tournament. Look, 92, 93, 94, Tennessee State was on fire. Not so much since then, but this could be the year. So let's take a trip back down memory lane. 1994, these were the top hip-hop artists the last time Tennessee State went to the NCAA tournament. All right, guys, let's have a little fun here. I know these guys. I know these guys. Raise your hand out there if you'd like to identify the top hip-hop artist of 1994, according to ChatGPT drawing it up.
I mean, for sure, there's Nas, Biggie,
All
OutKast.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know who that one down there is.
The last 2 is like, what? I can't tell.
All right, so you guys don't know the last
I'm
two.
pretty sure the far one is Redman.
Yeah. Okay. Now
Okay.
I'm gonna give you
I forgot
this.
about him.
I'm gonna give you this. Now, look, AI kind of struggled a little bit on this last guy. So that is Method Man. Doesn't really look like Method Man.
Man,
I'm
y'all
going
aren't
to
doing
just.
him. AI did not do him
I'm just
any
look.
justice. That's
Exactly. I would have
crazy.
guessed that.
Okay, look, it's the budget. It's free 99. Okay, it looks more like Bill Bellamy than Method Man to me. But that is Nas. His Illmatic came out in 1994.
Classic.
Biggie in 1994. OutKast debut album. You guys know the name of their debut album?
See, Tolly, now you're
Just
pushing it.
ask.
It's not Aquamini, is it?
No, Aquemini. Oh my God, Aquemini, not Aquamini.
Aquemini. Well, there you go.
I thought he was
I
about to say
pronounced it wrong.
Aquaman. The song, what did the song was Aquemini. He and I, Aquemini. No, it was their very first Southern playalistic Cadillac funky.
Oh
music.
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right. Okay.
OutKast debut that really changed all of hip hop because the South had something to say, and it's been talking ever since. But a little fun there. But that was the last time that Tennessee State was in the NCAA tournament. All right, let's talk about the SWAC Men. Boy, if we had a rap song about the SWAC Men this year, what would it be? It's Unpredictable. Isn't there a song called Unpredictable? Is there a song called
By
Unpredictable?
Jamie Foxx.
Yes.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx.
All right, there you go. There you go. Not really a rap song, but that's what I would attach to the SWAC Men this year. And I think nobody really exemplifies that more, guys, than Jackson State. Look at the weekend that they had. Last weekend, they go down to Bethune-Cookman and get boat raced on the beach, 85-48. Doc Bradley is coming into form, and you're sitting there thinking, at least I was, like, oh, they just played the top team. Now they got to play the next best team in the SWAC, according to the standings. That's FAMU. But they were able to pull that one out. A late go-ahead three-pointer in that game. Guys, you see the difference in shooting. 25% against Bethune-Cookman. That's not going to get it done. A little better against FAMU in that game, shooting 42%. All right, Wilton, we got to start with you. This is your home team, Jackson State. A tale of 2 days over the weekend. Saturday and Monday, a big difference.
I think in that Bethune-Cookman game for Jackson State, it was a situation of Bethune-Cookman used their size and strength to their advantage. And I've been saying this all the while for the last couple of weeks. Like one of the, I guess, more of the weaker points for Jackson State is the interior presence in the paint. And so when you have a team like Bethune-Cookman that's physical, and we know what they bring from that area of the floor, you're going to probably be in trouble, especially if you're Jackson State and you're not hitting your shots. And so that was a key situation where you were seeing that they weren't hitting shots, they were generating turnovers, and Bethune-Cookman took advantage of that. And I think when you look at the Jackson State versus FAMU game, you saw a Jackson State team that not only were they hitting their shots, number one, but then also number two, in that second half, they found ways to collapse the paint and not allowing FAMU to really like take advantage of that area, kind of what Bethune-Cookman was able to do. So I think that, again, the biggest thing in this whole process for Jackson State is when they're hitting shots, they're on, obviously. And then, of course, when you have the point guard that they have, I mean, my gosh, Deshaun Ruffin is like, dude is like absolutely a beast. But again, when he's not always hitting his shots, you really do have to rely on, okay, is Dorian McMillan going to get us points for Jackson State? Is Jamie Mitchell going to get us points for Jackson State? So you have to really think about like those role players that play next to Deshaun Ruffin. They really have to be able to step up, night in and night out, because if not, this is a team that could be, limited from scoring. And again, when you start going up against more of the physical teams in the SWAC, specifically, you talk about a Bethune-Cookman and FAMU, you might run into some trouble.
All right, Liv, are we to believe in Jackson State? I was just getting to the point where I believe, right? See that? I believe Jackson State. And then Bethune, I was like, I don't know. Then FAMU, I was like, okay, maybe. Where are you with Jackson State right now, Liv?
I mean, I think we can believe because when you have a star player like Deshaun Ruffin, like someone who can get it done and not only scoring, but playmaking, you can't write them out. I think the biggest difference in the Bethune game is Bethune is truly hitting the team that we all expected them to be. So they're really separating themselves from the entire group of being like, yep, we're going to start asserting our dominance. And especially at home, they've been on this little homestead, but I think it's just showing how dominant they can be and use their defense, their size, as Wilton said, in order to get those stops. Because during that game, Deshaun still had 19. no one else was scoring. So if teams are going to run with that and be like, hey, we're going to let Deshaun get his and just we're going to let the other players just keep shooting and missing the ball, they're not going to have much luck. But in the FAMU game, with Jamie Mitchell going off for 20 and those two combining for 50 points and them being able to get second half production, because FAMU did adjust in that second half and they put Caleb Washington on Deshaun Ruffin, who has nearly a foot on him. That kind of, it altered Deshaun. They really sat on his right hand and forced him left. Was he still scoring points? Yes, but they made it a lot more difficult. Other players need to step up and be able to score when they're getting those open opportunities. So if they can find consistency in that, I know that they will still be a threat in the SWAC conference race.
All right, are we to lose any faith in FAMU? I mean, hardly anybody goes through conference play unbeaten. They've been riding high. They lost to Bethune to start the season. Now they get a second conference loss to Jackson State. Are you still on board with the Rattlers?
You know, I am. I think where they're going to see issues is what Jackson State decided to do in that second half, which was hack-a-shack against Miles Nadal. They were like, we're going to sub players in just to foul him and keep him at the free throw line so he can keep missing. And that's where we saw Jackson State kind of take the momentum away from FAMU and get the lead. They literally were fouling Miles almost every single time, to the point FAMU had to sub him out, which took their rim protector out of the game. And it threw off the flow they had built on offense. Do I still believe in what they've done thus far? Yes, because they've shown that, as a team and a unit, they can really get it done. But other teams definitely notice that in close situations, if Miles Nadal is on the floor, foul him, send him to the free throw line. So they're not even getting the opportunity to set up their offense. So we'll see how they kind of move through that and how they work through that, because other teams definitely notice that strategy that Jackson State used in the second half.
He's just got too many muscles. The muscles are getting in the way of the form. That's just too many biceps and triceps out there. All right, Wilton, this is the time of the year, the last couple of seasons, where Texas Southern wakes up. They have just seemed to get these classic slow starts, and everybody's like, yes, this is the year that we dethrone Johnny Jones. They're not even going to make the tournament. Well, everybody makes the tournament this year, but if it was just down to 8, we would have been saying, oh, no Texas Southern this year, because they started the week ahead of only Mississippi Valley State. And then I think the Johnny Jones turbo button, he pulled it out and said, let's go, boys, over the weekend. They beat Alabama A&M, a huge second half. Then they come back on Monday and just BTA. Can we call it BTA? Is this BTA? Let's see, 74, yeah, 84, 94. Oh yeah, 30. Yep, that is
both of them.
Right.
Both of them. BOF''EM. Shooting lights out from behind the 3-point line in the last 2 games. Wilton, what's the turbo button? What's going on with Texas Southern?
Man, Tyler, you pretty much just said it. Anytime you have a coach like Johnny Jones and what he's been able to do with Texas Southern and this team for years at this point, it's just like they may start off slow, but there's going to be a Texas Southern team always in the mix at some point as we get to the end of February and then going into March. And you just literally said it. Against Alabama A&M, Alabama State, against Alabama A&M, they went 11 of 20 from 3. You hit that many threes out of that particular portion of shots, you probably have a great chance of winning. And then they bounced back again and hit 12 of 29 from 3 against Alabama State. So again, and this is also an Alabama A&M team that's somewhere, in the middle of the pack of the SWAC, but both of these teams are still in the mix trying to rise. So you get 2 critical wins like that against 2 teams of this caliber, and you're really right back in the mix. And so that's the beauty of SWAC basketball. And then, after having a full month's play, you still have a chance to see these teams again in the month of February. And so you can still get these wins back. But I think more than anything, we're going to really have to see what this Texas Southern team is going to be made of on the back half of the schedule. Like, outside of them playing Prairie on Saturday, they have a FAMU matchup on February 7th. They have a game against Bethune-Cookman, and both of those games are on the road. So those are critical road tests. Not to mention, we hadn't even talked a lot about Grambling and Patrick Craig and what they're doing, and they have them on Valentine's Day. Then, oh, by the way, 2 days after that, they have Southern. So we will see if Johnny Jones can continue to pull out the magic that he does, typically as we get toward the end of the season, to see where this Texas Southern team ends up.
Liv, they've looked great the last 2 games. What have they done that they were not doing and to start the season in the first 6 games?
I think they've just found consistency and confidence in their roles. Versus Alabama A&M, they had 5 players score in double figures, and then they followed it up against Alabama State and had 6 players in double figures. So when you're having that much production across the board, including players off the bench, you're going to typically dominate games when you have people in high teens to the 20s. And specifically, Troy Hupstead has been excellent for them, not only for scoring, but on the glass. Alex Anderson, Jalen Weisinger. So, and they've been able to finish games in second halves. That's really, you want to stay competitive in the first half if you're not blowing people out. But when you can have dominant second halves, like especially what we saw versus Alabama A&M, that's just great. This is a roster that I feel like is different than the Johnny Jones teams we've typically seen, which is led by a true point guard who can really score the ball and highly impact the game. They're more so led by their forwards and bigger guards, which is not, they're a big team. And I think a lot of people don't realize the difference that we see in this Texas Southern team this year. But I feel like now they're kind of getting comfortable in the roles that have been established and playing alongside each other. And so to sweep the Alabama teams at home is great. But again, they will be challenged over this next stretch, and we'll see how competitive they can stay.
All right, let's talk about SWAC Women. Man, had a good one this weekend that was on HBCU Go. I was on the studio call for that. And Liv, you were there too. We were hanging out. We had Alabama A&M, Texas Southern. Let's take a look at those standings because it's pretty heavy up top. You got Southern, A&M, Alcorn State. You got Alabama State and FAMU just kind of hanging out there still within an arm's reach of the top. Wow. What do you guys, Wilton, we'll start here. How many true contenders do you see on the SWAC women's side?
Honestly, Tolly, right now at this very point, I'm gonna really stay with 2 and a possible, and those 2 for sure.
Are we playing
is Southern.
spades here? 2 and a possible.
We love a good game of spades, right?
Yeah.
But I would say Southern, and then Alabama A&M for sure, and then after that, almost like a 2B or 2A would be Alcorn. But I think Southern is obviously still the most complete team, even though they took that loss to FAMU a couple weeks ago. I mean, they're just dominant on multiple fronts, and they get you with their defense and being able to turn their defense into offense. But you talk about key players like Demaya Porter, Zaria Hurst, and Michaela Cunningham, Jocelyn Tate. Like, they are your key players that, you know, essentially make Southern go. And so I think that as long as they're going to continue to put pressure on teams, which they have, and that's, you know, pretty much a Coach Funch's staple, they're going to be able to continue to win games. And they have a tough stretch of games, too, that are coming up specifically on the road, too. They have Jackson State today, and then, of course, they have Alcorn. So those are 2 games. They go through the Mississippi stretch. So that'll be interesting to see there. With Alabama A&M, ever since they took that loss to Mississippi Valley, I think we're starting to see them kind of come together even more. You talk about the play of, and it doesn't get really talked about enough, but the Texas Southern transfer and Jada Belton, she has been tremendous for Alabama A&M and what she's been able to do for that team. And then you talk about Alcorn. I think it goes without saying, like, this is a team that even with them losing one of their key starters that transferred to another school from last year, they're still in the mix. Coach Kilbert just always continues to find ways to keep this team in the mix, whether it's, you know, using their defense to fuel their offense in different ways. So I would definitely say those are my top 3 for now.
All right, let's go back to that schedule. I want Liv to talk about it. The upcoming next 5 games for Southern University. Look, they're at the top, and every team on the schedule for the next 5 games in a row will be shooting for Southern. Not that everyone's not, but look, Jackson State. I don't care where Jackson State is. You got to beat Jackson State because they have beat everybody for so long. You do not give them an off season, and they still want to come up. Alcorn is there in the running. Alabama State is improved. We just talked about Alabama A&M. Texas Southern is no slouch. This is a rough 5 games coming up for Southern, Liv.
It is. And I think to start it off with an extremely hungry team of Jackson State who, you know, they're without Massanet, they're without a few other players. So they're still, you know, slightly figuring things out, but I think they're hungry. They're not, you know, they're not in games giving it up. So to go to Jackson State and have to fight a hungry team who wants that key victory over a top team is crucial. And that Alcorn State game really intrigues me simply because Alcorn State is not playing tonight. So their game versus Grambling got moved to the 2nd. So they're going to have extra fresh legs to go against Southern, where Southern's only going to have a day turnaround to go into their house and compete against them. And Alcorn plays really well at home. These are going to be two extremely defensive-minded teams going at it. So it's really going to be who can put up points. And Alabama State, they've had some great improvement under a new head coach. Clearia Patterson has been great for Alabama State. She was just a newcomer of the week. They're really finding their stride. So this is going to be an extremely tough stretch for Southern. But if they can just keep to their identity of defense and staying true to who they are, because that's why we saw that loss at FAMU. They shot like over 23s. They had turnovers. They were just doing things that were not to their identity. If they just can't stray away from who they are again. They got to stay true to their principles, to their culture, and we will see competitive games and possibly them come out of that stretch being undefeated.
All right, the game that everyone's going to circle, though, on the next 5 coming up for Southern is going to be that Alabama A&M game on February 7th. Seeing Alabama A&M this past weekend on HBCU Go, Liv, I love the size of their bigs and the versatility and the flexibility and the mobility. Do we have any more T's to talk about there? Mo Davenport, man, the way she has matured. I remember seeing her at UAPB. You were like, okay, she's big. Big size, nice footwork, but not fully matured with her game. And just to see her evolution year after year, and now she's really in her prime as a college basketball player. And then Belton coming over from Texas Southern. Man, they can put one of those bigs up front when they play that zone live and just bother the shooters, and they don't have to give up rim protection when they do that.
Yeah, I think that's what makes them really hard to guard is that they have that size with post players who actually bring production. So they're not just big and being out there. They're big players who you do have to respect on the offensive end, who get on the glass, who are that rim protection. And we've seen Coach Thornton put both in at the same time. We've seen her mix it up, do one or the other, or neither of them. So I think they have flexibility on the offense to really match up against other teams and play who they want to play to their strengths, because when you have players like Kayla Walker, who is really, finding her flow, she was injured at the beginning of the season, and now she's knocking down shots, that opens up the inside for their post players even more. And so that's what makes them so hard. They have true threats on the inside and real threats on the perimeter. And so when you have that mix, that's why we're seeing them now on this 6-game winning streak.
And Wilton, what I loved over the weekend, it was a little chippy out there, man. Alabama A&M hit that late three-pointer in that point of the game where you usually run the clock out, the respectful time of the game. They're like, take that too. Belton comes back over to the bench. She gets her crown, which is the trademark, kind of Texas Southern move. I love it. I don't think they're out there selling Girl Scout cookies. I want to see some emotions and chippiness, and loved it this weekend.
Tyler, you know what they say about the SWAC. It's rough. And at the end of the day, all these teams are trying to compete to get to the ultimate point of winning a conference championship in the regular season, only to, take that further into the SWAC tournament. So again, you're going to find that a lot of these teams are clawing for wins. Again, we've talked about it. Liv has even alluded to it, the fact that you have your top 3 teams, but there's a huge mix somewhere within the middle of these teams that typically, we won't necessarily say that they are typically the greatest, but they're finding ways to come up with wins. And again, once you find a way to get 1 win, 2 wins, you want to continue to build on that process. So every team that's at the top do know that you have to see these teams again, and knowing that the teams that are behind the top teams are really going to try to continue gunning for them. So you're going to be able to see that chippiness. You're going to see that attitude, that hunger, only as it gets, deeper into the month of February into early March.
Well, we had a big matchup in the CIAA this week on the women's side. It was Fayetteville State and Winston-Salem State, who just on a roll, just a school record for wins in a row. They had only lost to one team this year, and that was a D1 team in A&T. But after a little delay from the weather, they finally get on the court in Vietnam. And boy, dropping bombs was Fayetteville State. They take down the Lady Rams. I've since dried my tears, Liv. What went wrong for my beloved WSSU? What did Fayetteville State get right?
I mean, everything. Fayetteville State was like, please remember who the two-time back-to-back recent champions are.
Yeah.
All this talk about Winston-Salem, let's remind them. And that's really the attitude they came in. We saw players with a shh to their mouths, like they came with knowing they were going to beat them by double digits. And they were aggressive, they were physical, they were able to knock down key shots. And really, Fayetteville State wins by their defense. And when you're able to hold teams and take away their strengths, that's why we saw that. And it definitely was, I wouldn't necessarily say a confidence builder, but it was a reminder to everyone in the CI and across the HBCU landscape of who the Broncos are. I think there was a lot of question marks because they had dropped some games and not looked to the caliber of what we've seen, especially from a Coach Brown's team in the past 2 seasons. But I feel like now they're like, oh yeah, please remember who really runs this. And look, see,
we don't need all that. That's too much.
That's
too much.
They wanted to hand them their first Division II loss, and they were ready. They were ready for the opportunity to
see, they
show
doing
everyone
BTA.
who they were.
No.
Yeah.
Come on, Buck and Broncos. You didn't have to BTA my girls like that. Well, I need some help, man.
Man, you need some help. Well, the thing is, I think with Winston-Salem State, the first thing they'll have to correct, obviously, from that game for sure is, those turnovers. They had 18 turnovers in that game, which is not necessarily characteristic of them. Fayetteville State's pressure that they were able to put on them, they had fast break points was like 14-3. They had 17 points off turnovers from Winston-Salem State. So I think the biggest thing will make for Winston-Salem State is to make sure, that they don't continue to turn the ball over in critical matchups. But I think a lot of it, too, comes back to what Liv said. This was a reminder game for Fayetteville State that, like, hey, we still run the CIAA. We've been the champs the last 2 years. So you still have to come through us. We understand, we respect the fact of what you're doing this year on the court, the winning streak and all of that. But when it comes down to it, when all the chips are on the table and the lights are the brightest, will you be able to get the job done? So I really think that I'm not mad about Winston-Salem State taking this loss right now because it's still in the regular season, as opposed to taking this loss maybe once we get into the CIAA tournament.
Yeah, for sure. All right, CIAA tournament is coming up. Liv, is it possible? Would you put any money at all on Fayetteville State sweeping the CIAA tournament, men and women? I'm looking at the standings and I'm like, Virginia Union is that team, but Bluefield State got them. Fayetteville State got them. Fayetteville State played them close in the game that they lost to. Is Virginia Union a shoe-in? Could Fayetteville State run the men and women's side?
I'm leaning on Fayetteville State. I would say with their men's side, we're finally seeing them in that Coach Hearn offense that we saw at Bluefield State. When you're bringing in a new system, which everyone knows, they want to score the ball. They want to play fast. They want to get up points. They want to score in the hundreds. We will see them come up and shoot in the first 3 seconds of a shot clock. And it's paying dividends. In the last, I think, 5 or 6 games, they've been in the high 90s or the hundreds. And it's hard when you don't play that type of offense and you're not used to defending that night in and night out, because we don't see that from every single team in the CI. We don't see that from anyone else in the CI. It's hard to adjust and play them. They're rolling right now, and especially behind Larry Howell, who's coming off a 31-point performance in their last game. They're just playing dominant. For the women, I don't think they'll necessarily run the table. Could I see them three-peating? Of course, but they're going to have to see Winston again. And I don't think Winston will definitely grow before the next time they play them. And for the men, Virginia Union, they've toppled a little bit. I think they've shown a little bit of their weak spots. Are they still a great quality team? Of course. But the way Fayetteville State men have been playing so dominant, I just don't see anyone who is going to knock them off what they're doing right now.
All right, Wilton, I've been to enough basketball in my life to know come tournament time, these hot shooting, high octane offenses, oh man, people start missing shots when they get to the big arena. Defenses start stepping up. Wilton, would you rather have a high octane offense or a lockdown defense heading into a conference tournament?
Tyler, I think that when you start talking about tournament play, you really want to try to have a combination of both. But if you can't have both, you for sure want to have a strong defense, because again, like you said, we can say all the time in basketball, the teams that they're able to hit shots, whether it's 3-pointers or they have just a strong field goal percentage from the floor, you're not going to always hit every shot. There are going to be some games where you go absolutely cold, and you may have been the leading team in field goal percentage all throughout the regular season. But if you have good defense, if that's a mentality that's been built during the regular season, that's going to travel. That's going to go, because it doesn't cost per se to play defense, as opposed to when you start talking about offense. Playing defense is a choice. Most people always want to shoot a basketball. They want to get the ball to their teammate to make a play in terms of an assist or getting the right bucket or getting the right read. But as far as like when it comes to defense, you have to make a constant choice every single time you go down the court to say, I don't want my defender to score on me. I don't want to allow this defender to get in the paint or potentially get to the free throw line. So I think that in this particular case, you would want a stronger defensive team when you start talking about getting to the tournament, because again, if you're not scoring, you can still find a way to win a game if you're able to limit the opposing team from getting to the free throw line and just scoring points.
Man, our resident Hall of Famer Liv, she has a 1,700 plus career points, Hall of Fame. Liv, how about your defense? How was your defense, Liv?
I mean, I would, what the coaches would ask me to do. I mean, I was a player who definitely took things personal. So whatever my matchup was, whatever the assignment my coaches gave me, whatever mini goals they set for me that game of what to do against the person I was guarding, I would do that. But, I love offenses and I love scoring the ball. So that's why I'm usually pro offense.
Well, then I don't know. Liv might have did a little ole out there. Just come on, ole. I'll see you down on the other end.
Let me get my shot back.
Yeah. All right, let's check out the MEAC Men. Every week I look at the MEAC standings. There is somebody new that I'm like, where did they come from? First, it was North Carolina Central. I was like, where did they come from? Now it is Morgan State. But of course, UMES is still there on top. Cleo Hill is letting people know, don't talk about Tennessee State so much. Don't forget about us here. Liv, I think you told us last weekend it's been since 1974, the year I was born, the last time that Maryland Eastern Shore started conference play unbeaten at 4-0. If you're keeping track at home, that was 52 years ago. Can they keep it up?
I'm definitely interested to see how they come into this week, because they were off due to the weather. They didn't travel. They were supposed to play North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. They didn't play those games. So being out that long, snow, ice, all of that, I'll be really intrigued to see how strong they come out in their matchup on Saturday. I have a feeling they may, but when you're undefeated, everyone wants to be your first loss. So everyone in the MEAC has a target on their back. That's why we're seeing Norfolk State and Howard get these losses. But when you are undefeated, you have an even bigger one, because they're like, oh, we're going to be the first team to beat you. And so I think this is a deciding week for them to see how they're going to progress through conference play, because 2 losses can really change the trajectory when there's only 8 teams in a conference. And so we'll be interested to see how they come out. But I mean, everyone's going to be gunning for them, just like they're gunning for everybody else.
All right, let's take a look at those standings again, because as Liv said, Norfolk State and Howard getting those losses. Wilton, these were supposed to be the 2 teams running the MEAC this year, right? Norfolk State 3-3 in the conference. Howard sitting at 2-3. Ooh, how'd the favorites end up at the bottom, Wilton?
Tolly, there's this team out there in Baltimore, Maryland that said they got something to say, and that's Morgan State. And again, the way that they've been winning these games, I mean, I'm talking about close games, like 79-78 against Norfolk State, right? Like they found a way to win games, not only just from being able to score, but then also, like, of course, being able to, use their guards to like get into creation for scoring for them and just clutch shot making. I mean, again, you talk about their key players, Alfred Warrell, Elijah Davis, Christian Meeks, Marlon Harris. Like, these are guys that have found a way to step up for a Morgan State team that, again, like you just said, we didn't have them on our bingo cards as being number one or being close to number one right now, or for sure getting some of these clutch wins that they've been able to get. But again, when you find a way to win, when you can make clutch shots, when you can defend, hence we just talked about that, you can 9 times out of 10 find ways to win games. But again, you have matchups coming up for Morgan State. You have a February 7th matchup with Maryland Eastern Shore. And then, of course, they have a matchup, as far as like making sure the schedules go as planned, but a matchup against North Carolina Central on the road on February 16th. And then another game to remember to watch. It's a rematch, or would be a rematch, on March 2nd against Norfolk State. So they still have some games where they have to continue to prove themselves. So this is a team that people should definitely not look over, but definitely look into more, in addition to the teams that we expect to run the MEAC in Norfolk State and Howard.
Yeah, and we just put the top 6 teams up there. We didn't fit everybody up there. So Coppin State would be down at the bottom. So not the bottom for Norfolk State and Howard, but not as close to the top as they wanted to be. I think today marks 30 days out until the SIAC tournament starts. Guys, I guess I would go Miles for the ladies, and for the men, Tuskegee, Morehouse. And on the ladies' side, I can't say Miles absolutely. I think they're the favorites, but I think you got to give Edward Waters some attention there, as well as Lane. How murky is the SIAC picture on both sides for you, Liv?
It's very murky water, especially on the men's side. I mean, I don't think anyone had Morehouse currently sitting at the top of their SIAC division. And what they've been able to do behind the guard play of Jermonte Hill, really leading them and sitting in such a comfortable position, is really like hats off to them. And for Miles to drop as many games, this is not the type of team we're used to seeing, but I love it. It just builds the competitiveness. And then we could see what happened last year when Savannah State rolled into the tournament and ended up winning the entire thing. I feel like with all of these conference tournaments, we just never know, because with typical one-bid leagues, everyone is so hungry to get that experience in the NCAA tournament. And so I really like Morehouse's team and where they're at, but I also love Tuskegee. I love that they have a post player like Draper who can really get it done. And they've built, a lot of teams now are so guard oriented that their offense doesn't incorporate their post play completely. Tuskegee does that. Draper is a beast, but I can't write out anyone else just because I have a feeling we're going to see what happened last year, where a lower seed comes in, knocks off a number one, and then suddenly wins the whole thing. And so it's crazy. And on the women's side, I would say Miles is probably, the favorite, but seeing as Edward Waters has really been handling their business, as well as Lane, I just feel like those are the top 3 where if any of them won, I would not be surprised.
Wilton, I'm really looking forward to the SIAC women's tournament. I think that might be the most competitive when you look at all the HBCU tournaments coming up. You got to throw Clark Atlanta in there. Those women could get hot at any time. That's a high-scoring offense. I know you cover women's basketball a lot across different leagues. How excited are you for the SIAC women coming up 30 days away from their tournament?
Oh, absolutely excited. I mean, you pretty much kind of alluded to it. Like you could have a safe bet on the fact that we could be looking at Miles in terms of potentially maybe getting back or winning again. But again, like it's just really tough when you have like the Edward Waters teams and you have the Lanes and Clark Atlantas. I mean, don't even sleep on Allen as well. So it's just like, these are teams that like when you look at them, they have key players that can get the job done on all the teams. And it's just like, it's really a situation of which team can get hot the most throughout the month of February, and once the conference tournament starts, which team can win a game and continue to win. I mean, it's basically survive and advance. And again, I wouldn't be surprised, even though right now the favorite per se would be Miles. Like, don't sleep on Edward Waters, and for sure don't sleep on Clark Atlanta.
All right, it is poll time. Liv, you and I are going to have to give out some grades here because we want to introduce our first look at Wilton Jackson's Top 10 polls on the Division I side for men and women. I mean, look at the marketing here, Liv. I mean, first of all, Wilton is very prominent on the graphic. I got to put my glasses on. I got to put them up real close to my face so I can see all the team names here. But I can definitely see Wilton. He's got orange on for the men. He's got his yellow on for the ladies. Let's start with the ladies there. Wilton says Maryland Eastern Shore, Howard, Southern, Alabama A&M, Norfolk State, Alcorn State, Alabama State, FAMU, Texas Southern, Grambling, his top 10. Liv, I know you do a poll as well. How would you rate Wilton's poll? Where do you take issue at all anywhere on the women's side?
No issue. We're pretty similar in our top five. I just had Norfolk State and Alabama A&M switch just because of, I mean, both teams have been playing so dominant right now. Like, basically, they've been belting everyone they've been playing against. So I think there's definitely some, just interpretation of who you want to put there, but our top three is exactly the same. I do like Alcorn State at 6. I do like the way they've been playing. I think we're pretty on brand of feeling the same way.
All right, Wilton, we're going to get some smoke here. Let's go over to the men's side, see if we can find some smoke. Wilton is going Tennessee State at number 1, followed by Maryland Eastern Shore. You got Bethune-Cookman there at 3. Jackson State at 4. I feel like we might get a little bit of hometown bias cooking in here.
Oh,
all right,
God.
FAMU at number 5. Jackson State just beat FAMU, so I got you there. North Carolina Central, UAPB. We have Southern, Alabama A&M, and Norfolk State. All right, come on, Liv. Let's pull out the surgical tools here. Let's dissect a little bit.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the men was made before Norfolk State lost to Morgan. So, but we're pretty much on brand. I did on mine, I moved Bethune above UMES simply because of how good Bethune has been playing through conference play. But I see an argument for UMES being number 2 as well. And I think this week is really a deciding week because as we remember, Tennessee State lost to Alabama A&M, although it was super early in the season. Bethune plays them this weekend. So I feel like everyone might have a new number 1 after this weekend, but our top 5 is pretty much the same outside of 2 and 3 being flopped. I like Central there. Again, they were out this whole week too because of weather. So you can't really argue much. I'm a fan of UAPB. They've been so hot and cold, but to go into Southern and beat them in such a tight game was, I think, a turning moment for them. But we have to remember that win for Southern over Bethune-Cookman is now holding a ton of weight because they beat them on their home floor. So they should be in everyone's top 10. I mean, I could do without Alabama A&M up there simply because I feel like they've just been kind of up and down. I think they're still finding their groove, but they did bounce back with an extremely dominant win over PV. Yeah, and I know if Wilton would have made this after the Norfolk State Morgan game, Norfolk State would not be on there. So
absolutely.
All right. So Wilton, if you redo the poll just right now in real time, where do you put Morgan State on your poll right now?
I would probably have Morgan State at number 10. I would replace Norfolk State with Morgan State.
All right, you wouldn't put Morgan ahead of Alabama A&M?
No, not right now.
Okay. Here's a question for both of you guys. Should top 10 polls, no matter where they come from, should they really be a summary of your entire body of work, or should it be more of a finite snapshot of like who's hot right now? Because look, Bethune-Cookman, for example, when Doc Bradley joins that team after Christmas, like that's an entirely different team than they were prior to him before his eligibility got restored, right?
Mm-hmm. I think, well, we saw Bethune open up the season with a really good game against Auburn. Personally, I think your whole body of work does matter simply because when you get to the tournament, whoever makes it, unfortunately this year, a lot of the HBCUs didn't have strong, for the men, didn't have strong out of conference performances. So more than likely, whoever comes out is going to be a 16 seed besides if Tennessee State wins the OVC. But I think that matters because that's what goes into the minds of the NCAA. They look at the full body of work. They look at your quad performances. That's what goes into their net ranking, which I've been very vocal about. I hate because it doesn't go, all the factors that influence HBCUs, it does not go into that, but that's what they use. And so that's how, I determine mine on a lot of it, but I understand people who just use like a hotness radar of like who's hot now, who's moving up, who's not doing well. And so I think it's just determined on how people are doing their own.
All right, we got one more poll to look at. Let's take a look at the HBCU Go poll. As of our recording, they did have their Division II men's poll out. And I put this up because, Liv and I do collect a few coins over there, and we both vote in this poll. Or you do vote in this poll, right, Liv?
I do,
okay,
yes.
Yeah, just making sure. Yeah, I put some thought into this one as well. It's not my poll. There's several people that vote in there, but HBCU Go has Virginia Union at the top, followed by Tuskegee, then Morehouse, Fayetteville State, and Miles. This is the Division II men's poll. Virginia Union is we talked about this, right? Like their body of work says, you just look at their record. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, they've only lost a few games.
Mhm.
If I were to say, are they the best team that you've seen, the last 2 weeks? Are they the hottest team in the last 2 to 3 weeks? Does that still hold weight for you? Do you like Virginia Union at the top, Liv?
I do, simply because of their full body of work. I mean, only losing 2 games into a hot, like Fayetteville State is rising, and but we have to remember they played twice. The first time it went into 3 overtimes and Virginia Union won. Then they had to go to Fayetteville State and they lost. So I definitely do. They were just recently ranked before their loss in the National Division II poll. I think, they've been the most consistent team. And I think that matters when you're consistently putting on work. Have they dropped some games? Yes, of course. But don't be surprised if Tuskegee is everyone's one, because they have been absolutely rolling. And I think a lot of people just may not necessarily pay attention to the SIAC if you're not, watching or fully
East
involved
Coast
in it. And
bias.
so,
East Coast bias.
yes. And so I think a lot of teams in the SIAC aren't necessarily shown love. And so I'm not surprised when people have Tuskegee as their number one.
All right, Wilson, how do you like the HBCU Go poll? Let's put it up one more time for Wilson. We picked your poll apart. You get to play doctor here. What do you think about the top 5?
I like the top 5. Like, I think Virginia Union is still like the team that people should still be paying attention to. Obviously, I mean, we know what their history tells us, and just the play from Malachi Dark and Taj Harding. But again, like to Leo's point, which is very intriguing, that Tuskegee team is you have a lot to be excited about. And if you don't get a chance to watch Tuskegee, this is the team that you should be watching more of this year, or at least going into the month of February. Like, this is a team that has, really high impact players. You talk about Draper and Liv, you alluded to it. I mean, you talk about the play of his impact for this particular team. If he continues to play well, of course, amongst others, this is a dangerous Tuskegee team that can really, really make some noise.
All right, so those Division II tournaments just about a month away, and then it'll be the NCAA Division II postseason. We'll see if we only get the automatic qualifier. Will we get some at-large teams? Because there are some quality HBCU teams out there, but only one can win each of their conference tournaments. So that will be interesting to see, but we still got another month before that happens. All right, guys, great show today. Liv, stay cool. Minus might get up to -10 for you today. Just
Probably.
throw your shorts on, go out there, get a little sunshine.
Hey, I promise you, when it's that cold, you will see some people for sure in shorts and some flip-flops outside. No joke.
Yeah, well, we know the game that's being played there. All right, no shorts for Wilton. Stay warm in that 41-degree Arctic blast you got there in Jackson, Mississippi.
I am. I need the turtleneck. I got to keep that.
All right, for the entire crew, I'm Tali Carr. I'm chilling in Atlanta as well. We'll see you guys next week.